welcome everybody to the Crystal Podcast once again. Today, we are joined by Gala, Nacho, and Joaquin in a unique literature debate. During the next few minutes, we will be discussing the main elements of the novel New Boy and going around a controversial question. Is this work appropriate for teaching to high school 12th graders? Stay tuned to find out. Yet another playground full of white kids is the perfect phrase to introduce us to the main character in this novel. Jose Cocote is a tidy, well-mannered and respectful kid who will spend the last month of 6th grade in a Washington, D.C. school in the 70s. Despite his handsome qualities, he has got one distinctive characteristic that will make him an inevitable outcast during the whole story. He is a black boy in an all-white school.
To start off, we should point out this first contact with Osei. Against all odds, the most popular girl decided to stand right behind the new boy, and after this, start to chat with him. That attitude was utterly impressive. After this contact, the relationship would go on further during that day, and eventually be brought to an end due to Ian's devil plan involving Casper, the nice guy, and a strawberry pencil case.
Right, but let's not get stuck there. Already at class, Mimi is sent by Mr. Brabham to take down the flag, as remember, it cannot stay up flaming at night during any rainy day, and the latter was the case. Ian, the manipulator of the class, decided to go ride with her. After finishing their task, they stayed outside for a few moments, and Ian managed to persuade Mimi into making out with him, marking the start of a toxic but brief relationship, which did not even contain love in it. As the description goes, Ian thrust his tongue deep into her, then pushed his hips into hers to make sure that time she definitely felt him.
Ian's plan, the main plot. And here, Dee lost her pencil case, which she got by exchanging her original case with Osei. He gave her his pink one, who used to belong to his sister, Cece, and received a one with Snoopy on it. Mimi found the lost item and later on gave it to Ian as a trade for their breakup. After this, Ian gave it to Blanca and told her to keep it a secret. Blanca offered it to Casper, the popular boy, who she felt attracted to. Osei saw Casper with it, because Blanca and Casper were together. He then got jealous because Dee had lied to him, saying she must have forgotten it at home, although none of them knew the actual reality. The plan worked perfectly.
Ending. Here, Osei tells Dee to go under the cypress trees and show her Cece's case inside Blanca's backpack. The African kid proceeded to get furious and accused Dee of lying to him, telling her she gave it to Casper and was two-timing him. After this, they began to discuss, while Dee defended herself by explaining Ian was not a reliable source. Just remember, Ian incited O into believing certain rumors, and she then decided to climb down. O ordered her in a loud tone of voice to not get away from him, and finally ran out of patience and called her a whore. The whole playground silenced, and Jose started to defame her, until she could not put up with the situation anymore and ran away. Following, Mimi approached Osei, and he invited her to climb up so she could prove by herself his claims were not false.
While climbing, she was grabbed by her legs and thrown down. Ian had done it. This caused the whole group to freak out and her body to get severely injured and bloody. While being on the ground, Mimi had a brief conversation with O. Osei, she called up to him, "Is this what you were going to show me?" Mimi rolled her head towards the pencil case, though it hurt. O nodded. Mimi ended up explaining the black boy the actual reality and how that pencil case ended inside Blanca's backpack. When Ian got questioned on why he committed those actions by Osei, he simply said, "Because I can." Finally, Miss Lott called Mr. Brabant, who saw Mimi bleeding and automatically yelled at Osei, ordering him to climb down, attacking him with the insult, "nigger," without being conscious of who the victimizer had been. After this, Osei cackled. inspired by her sister's word, shouting, "Black is beautiful," and shortly after, he plummeted. I'm Galia, mother of two lovely boys. They are both starting 12th grade next year. And one of the main reasons I would not allow it to be in the hands of our children is because it is slowly loaded with racism slurs directed to this poor kid. From the description of the awkwardness situations all the way to one of the teachers saying the N word out loud. If you ask me, showing this level of discrimination won't help to minimize the understained language of our children.
If you're concerned about the way Ose is victimized, I guess you couldn't bear all those sexually charged scenes. Remember that moment in which Ose and Dee stepped apart in the sandbank during recess? It literally goes, they remained in their pose like a modern sculpture of lovers, all heads and smiles and arms extended, interconnected, the outside world excluded. Didn't she go too far with this one?
Those excuses are not enough to lash out at the author of this masterpiece. My take on whether it is appropriate or not is that these spicy moments are nowadays actually overrated. The fact that teenagers nowadays have got access to all kinds of movies and graphic content online makes them the least sensitive of all generations before them. Am I wrong?
No, you've got a point there.
So you're basically implying that all this filtering out is unnecessary. But let me ask you something. What kind of student would you rather want to end up ahead of secondary school?
We must bring them as close as we can to real life, even if it means introducing them to racism, sex, and more. Kids that were pampered their whole life do struggle to fit in society as adults.
I definitely think I am starting to see eye to eye with Joaquin. In fact, his arguments are really solid, and they make me remember an article titled The Coddling of the American Mind by Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt. You two should check it out, especially Gala.
Fine, I will give it a try. Moving on, let me ask you something. Cannot it be counterproductive for minor or young adults to perceive a feeling of discomfort of this kind while studying? And could not this have a negative impact on their development as learners and an increase of their stress, damaging their mental health?
Why don't we ask other people outside the studio whether or not Tracy went too far on her descriptions and how they would react if they were actual witnesses of those situations?
How would you react if you witnessed a student being victimized by a teacher with the use of a racial slur? If you were on one of those school teachers, how would you manage to give Osei a hand to integrate into that new atmosphere?
Would you give a 16-year-old kid a book for literature that expresses racism through words, actions, and descriptions?
According to your views, is it fair for children to be exposed to certain texts they might feel offended by?
In your opinion, is a kiss scene unacceptable for 16-year-old kids?
Well, we have enjoyed an authentic discussion on New Voy, covering various perspectives, debating and asking people for their opinions. Personally, I would not mind this book to be part of my son's syllabus, but that is up to every single one of you to decide. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Crystal Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.